just leaving Panera now, but I've got to be honest with you. The idea that Darrell Brooks Jr. thought that he could stop the jury view of the SUV just goes to show you how crazy, not in an insane kind of way, but how just downright delusional Darrell Brooks Jr. was. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Sight Sounds Flavors on YouTube, sightsoundsflavors.com, and if at any point during this video you like it, give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and share and leave a comment. So, I think it's interesting that Darrell Brooks or any criminal defendant would think that they alone had the power, through consent or lack thereof, to stop the jury from seeing critical evidence. In fact, Darrell even raised relevancy as an objection, which I think is ridiculous. And Judge Durl went on to explain to him, well, you know, you're accused of using this SUV as a dangerous weapon to kill 6 people and injure dozens. And how Darrell didn't understand the relevancy of that is mind-boggling. It's ridiculous. You got the right one. But no, really, I mean, I think that for maybe the whole trial, he was just firing off objections left, right, and center, whether they made sense or not, in the hopes that something would stick. Because the reality of the matter is a lot of the objections to leading questions, they weren't even leading questions. Like if somebody says, how are you doing today? That's not a leading question. Where did you see that? That's not a leading question. Why did you do that? That's not a leading question. Where did you go? That's not a leading question. Isn't it true that you did this? That's a leading question. But I thought you said this. Didn't you mean that? That's a leading question. Also, that might be speculation. Did you go there and then did you go over there? That's a compound question. These are valid objections. A compound question isn't necessarily off the table, but you know, it's not a question you can answer with a yes or no. You know, and the reality of the matter is that Darrell, honestly, I don't think even took a minimal effort to understand, you know, the rules of evidence. I don't think he had the time. And one of the things that he did say that I do agree with is that there's no way he could have prepared adequately to defend himself. I mean, he just didn't have the time. He didn't ask for a continuance, but even if he had, he probably wouldn't have gotten it because, you know, when you want to be your own attorney, the court isn't supposed to make all sorts of accommodations for you. They're not supposed to teach you the law. They're not supposed to advise you the law. You know, you're basically taking your chances on your own. You're turning down competent counsel so that you can have your own trial. You can't then turn around and say, well, I had ineffective assistance of counsel because A, you're not a lawyer, B, you never went to law school, C, you don't understand the law, you don't understand procedure. I mean, why would anybody ever want to represent themselves? It doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're dealing with somebody that wants the attention, if somebody that wants to badger witnesses like Erica Patterson, somebody that wants to torment the judge, somebody that wants to berate the prosecution, somebody that wants to further traumatize the victims, then I guess you do what Darrell Brooks Jr. did. But the reality of the matter is that, you know, I've had people ask me questions, when do I think that Darrell lost the jury? I think Darrell lost the jury from the moment he was in the courtroom. The jury knew what he did. There's, you know, so much evidence, and his lack of remorse, his just downright nasty behavior, his constantly, you know, interrupting the proceedings, trying to derail everything, his attempt at a mistrial with the Reddit posts, you know, the fact that he badgered Erica Patterson on the stand. I mean, no jury wants to see that. This is the woman who he groomed, the woman who he got pregnant when she was a minor, the woman who he beat, even the day of, beat her. I mean, you know, someone like Darrell Brooks Jr. also, you know, having to be sent to other courtrooms, taking his shirt off, staring down the judge, you know, and then the two photos where he swore up and down, this is the mother of my child, you know, of course she sent me this. I know she sent me this, and then come to find out Don Wood sent it to him. The reality of the matter is that Darrell Brooks Jr. honestly thought that he could sabotage the whole trial. And the jury view is a classic example of that. 100% classic example, because he's like, well, you know, Your Honor, the laws are intended to be interpreted by the people, which is ridiculous because that would mean that, you know, by his lack of consent, the jury wouldn't be able to see the SUV. They wouldn't be able to see things that he even opened the door to, like his little rap video on Facebook, where he only played a clip of it, but then didn't want the rest of it shown, and then tried to suggest that the prosecution created evidence, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it just goes to show you that, honestly, I don't feel that they should have let him represent himself, but it is his right after all. And, you know, I mean, I just think that the whole trial, but especially the jury view, I think the jury view is a classic example of how warped Darrell Brooks' mind was. And I've heard people say that, you know, somebody was spoon feeding him this whole sovereign citizen crap, that maybe it was Dawn Woods' ex-boyfriend or her current boyfriend. I have heard that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I have to say that I just think that nobody could have been feeding him anything, because he didn't know what he was doing. Nobody could have told him that a who, what, where, why question is a leading question, is a direct question. I really honestly don't think that he had any help, really. I mean, he did such a horrible job. And the idea that he would think that his lack of consent would stop the jury from viewing something is crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And so again, I just don't even think that's sovereign citizen crap. I think that's just totally baseless. And it just goes to show you just how warped Darrell Brooks was. And, you know, honestly, I don't know. And then why did he want to see the SUV? Like, what was that about? What do you think that was about? I mean, do you think that he wanted to see the SUV just so he could be in the same room as the jurors? Or maybe he wanted to make sure the jurors weren't seeing something he wasn't seeing? Or, I mean, you know, to try to figure out what he was thinking is almost as crazy as to try to figure out why the judge and the, you know, prosecution allowed him to get away with what he got away with. I mean, the reality of the matter is that this is a guy who honestly probably wouldn't be able to pass a GED exam, which are actually not that easy to pass. A lot of people, I always tell people that want to drop out of school, I always tell them, listen, if you think the GED is a cake exam, you're crazy. The GED is actually harder than graduating from high school. So, but again, I don't think that Darrell would be able to pass a GED, let alone understand complex issues of law and even simple issues of procedure. Procedure is not difficult. It's just a lot of rules, and you got to know how the rules work with other rules. And he wasn't able to master that. So it really honestly doesn't shock me that he would think that his lack of consent would stop a jury view of the SUV that was used by him to kill 6 people and injure dozens of others. But it just goes to show you just how clueless he was and what a huge blunder he made by representing himself.